User in your channel started recording.
Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I am your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, Chris Scales, Tony Groves, and William Gibson. Hey guys.
Hey, Mike.
How's it going, guys?
Hey, good evening.
All right, welcome back post-Talladega for the NASCAR iRacing series. We're actually going to start out with a story. It's a thread that I posted personally about my experiences this last week with server issues. Basically, I went into the NIS race and about every other car was jumping in the air, 25 feet, and they would come back down. And then people were complaining verbally about me blinking out and jumping around and that kind of thing. And so I would have to fall to the back eventually. It even got so bad that my laps were not being counted at some point. I tried to disconnect. I did a reset of my graphics, doing the graphics wizard thing on the website. I reconnected, still the same problem. I ran A-fixed, no problem with that. If I ran a different series, it was just fine. But when I did the NASCAR iRacing series, I had server issues. Now, in the splits I were in, there were probably a half a dozen people with the same issue. And you could tell by the way people were calling them out for blinking. They were complaining of the same symptoms that I was experiencing as well. And by Sunday, I decided to try something different. So I lowered my max car transmit from 63 down to 20 in the app INI. Ran the race, no problem. And that fixed it, supposedly. So our teammate Greg Hectus, he also had the same problems throughout the week in that particular series as well. And Chris, can you tell us a little bit about what Greg was experiencing? I know you raced with him several times.
Yeah, it was pretty much identical to what you had seen, where once they went to green, the cars just looked like popcorn on the screen. I mean, they were just all jumping around crazy. And then same thing, he'd just get disconnected. He never got disconnected. He'd have to run around like that, and eventually, just like you said, it stopped scoring him laps and just ruined his race. I mean, might as well have not shown up. It was crazy.
Yeah, and I was watching carefully to see who reported it, and because we have teammates on TeamSpeak in different splits, I also heard from my teammates saying, hey, we have other people in our race that are blinking as well and having similar issues. So it was kind of a widespread deal within the series. And I did find on Facebook several people had a thread about it and were complaining, about it. I also participated in that thread. I finally posted it to the iRacing forums as a problem. So iRacing was aware. I did get a response from Nicholas Bailey. I'm going to read what he says here. This is not the same issue as the connection issue being discussed in the other thread. If turning down the number of cars being transmitted is resolving the issue, then the problem is that the computer is unable to keep up with the data coming from the server. I suspect this happens at Talladega worse than other tracks because Talladega is one of the few tracks where all the cars are all so close together all the time. Specifically, entering the corners, you can see more cars unless you're out front, so the sim has to draw those cars. I believe we have added some additional opponent car data to what is being transmitted in the last couple of season updates, so that could be why this is happening now. I'm not saying that this is a problem with your computer, just that the symptoms you describe fit this explanation. You should reach out to support with these symptoms so they can pass it on to the development team. So what do you think? I raced at Richmond last week and it's perfectly fine and I don't have connection problems, and all of a sudden we're at Talladega and it doesn't work.
Well, a couple of things that, I noticed. I mean, Talladega is very similar to Daytona, and I don't remember you having any issues at Daytona.
Nope.
And as well, if it's a computer issue, I believe your computer is uh, far better than mine, and I had zero issues, and I ran multiple races this week.
And this week I ended up turning the graphics down to like the lowest thing. Like the mirrors are off and everything.
Yeah, and I have mine just about, well, all the important stuff maxed out. I mean, I had to take my particles stuff off, but other than that, I mean, I've not changed it. But yeah, I didn't have one issue.
Yeah, it was kind
Yeah.
of a hunch I had on the max car data thing. Um, Based on what I was seeing, it was the right side of the S bar would go red. Never on the left, only on the right.
Yeah, I know. Greg said that he has never had any kind of problem like that ever on the sim. So, I mean, that might be the problem where there's just too much data trying to come across at tracks like Talladega. But if that's the case, then maybe they need to find a way to make that work better, compress it, because I mean, like I said, he's never had any. I know that Mike's had a couple issues with his network card here and there, but
Yeah, but
uh,
that's a different issue.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I actually have two network cards, and I have one with a problem, obviously, but that's a different thing than what I was experiencing here.
Yeah, like I said, Greg's had zero issues ever, and then this popped up this week at Talladega, and it was identical to what you were seeing. I mean, absolutely identical.
Yeah, and then on the Facebook post, a bunch of people, reporting the same thing. And like we heard in the races themselves, there were always at least 5, 6 people that were having blinking issues, it seemed like.
Oh yeah, in that early NIS race, that first one, I was racing that same race, and I didn't have any problems, but I was one telling you that there was probably at least 2 or 3 people in my race that were having that same problem, and you could hear them chatting about it on the radio.
Yeah. Well, I thought we'd start out with that story before we get into the results because it obviously affected my results, Greg's results, big time. So Wednesday fixed. Chris, you and I ran. I had the really bad blinking problem. I eventually, disconnected. I lost 6 laps. All I did was disconnect and reconnect. It should have only lost about 1 lap, and then I went and checked scoring. I was 6 laps down. And the reason was it wasn't scoring me before I had disconnected because the blinking was so bad. Chris, you ended up P21. I didn't have anything else besides that.
Yeah, and I can't remember. I actually went and looked at some of my results before we started the podcast, and I knew I had raced all the NIS races this week, and I raced some other, A fixed and truck races. I didn't know how much I raced. I raced 22 races this week, so I don't
Yeah, you were
remember
an
what
animal out
happened.
there.
What happened in a lot of them, honestly.
That was the race we ran out of fuel on. The one that had, I believe, just 2 cautions the entire race.
Yeah, you're right, because I played it like Daytona. I assumed that it was going to be a caution fest for the first half, and it wasn't. It was a super clean race.
Oh, you were crew chiefing, right, Will?
Yeah, I felt really bad. We were literally like a half lap short, which, I mean, is pretty close on your math because you would assume there'd be a caution in that long of a race, and there was no cautions. It was, if we would have got 1 caution, I think it would have played out perfectly. But yeah, it was a bummer. I felt really bad, but who would have guessed?
It was a learning experience for you, right? About understanding, can I make it or not, and knowing that ahead of time. It seems like you guys were caught off guard. It got down to the end, and you were short.
Yeah, it was to the point where I switched my cameras to the leader because we were in our own pack, and I was just hoping and praying one of them would wreck. And there was some contact. The guy cut across the grass, but he collected his car, and at that point it was kind of game over. But it was one of those things where I did the math assuming there would be more than 1 caution after that pit stop, and we only had the 1. So that was my bad. Sorry, Chris.
No, I kind of went in with the same mindset. Actually, most of the races early in the week, I went in kind of with a conservative mindset, and those all went so clean. Yeah, and they all went so clean. And then so kind of middle of the week, I kind of changed up and started being really aggressive. And then we started having caution fest. So like it just seemed like it didn't matter what I decided to do, it was wrong all week.
All right. I missed Wednesday Open. It was my wife's birthday. We went out to dinner. And I was thinking, man, what do you guys do when you have to miss one of these important events, especially on Talladega week? but I can't really miss my wife's birthday dinner either. So, and in fact, we were trying to get it done in time where I could rush home and make the race on time, and of course, it didn't work out.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, just you did the best you could. That's all you can do. You got to keep the wife happy, otherwise you're not going to be on the sim much.
Well, I knew if she did, we took separate cars, and she was running some errands, and if she would have been there at the time we agreed on, I would have made it home in time. But she was about 10 minutes late, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to make it now. So, but anyway, first world problems. I missed the Wednesday Open Talladega race. Kind of bummed about that. Chris, it says you got P11 that night.
Yeah, like I said, I actually can't remember much of that one either. But all those early week ones were kind of super conservative, if I remember right. That was another one where I had a completely clean car at the end of the race from playing it safe. But I think I was the first car a lap down there in 11th because I had gotten lapped over the playing it safe deal.
All right, Thursday Open P17, and you said sucks. Car was clean and fast, but I picked the wrong time to pit. Seems every strategy call I made all week has been wrong so far. So it's finally catching up to you.
Yeah, and actually that one I wasn't really playing that I wasn't really playing that same super safe strategy. I went pitted with a few laps left in fuel, and as soon as I come off pit road, a caution came out. So yeah, it's just
And then Thursday fixed with Tony crew chiefing. You got to race for the win. How about that? Because there were no bad pit calls made. Good job, Tony. How did that go? P12.
Oh, that was I'll be honest, I don't remember too much of that race. I just remember like, okay, this is like my first official time kind of spotting. Um, I don't want to screw up, and then a couple of not hitting my push to talk button properly, and poor Chris is up top and he's trying to get down, and I'm screaming at him, come down, and he can't hear me. But no, he raced his balls off, and um, we were looking so good near the end, and it was just a Talladega roll of the dice. Got screwed out of it. But yeah, he very well could have won that race. He was doing that well.
So you finally had some good moves at the time it counted, huh?
yeah, that race. Tony was crew chief for me, and we barely talked to each other for probably 30 laps because he had had that deal with his mic, and I have a button on the bottom of mine that gets bumped, very very rarely, and so I had my mic muted for a good chunk of that race too. But yeah, I coming down to the end, I was running third, and first and second got together and took us all out. But that actually happened. That happened 3 or 4 times in the races this week.
Now, how does that feel emotionally? I mean, you felt like you were in position to win. It was at the end of the race. Even though you wrecked, it still felt good, huh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, just like Tony says, kind of a roll of the dice when you go there. All you can do is try to get yourself in position at the end of the race. If you're lucky enough to make it through everything and do make the right calls, and you just said, yeah, it's just a crapshoot.
All right. And then Friday Open, you said P26. Ouch.
Yeah, I don't remember that one.
Yep. And then Saturday fixed morning, that was early. Greg raced P16. He had the server issues as well, just like I did. And he had 5 laps that never got logged, and rode around the back and watched people jump around. And he's a trooper out there trying to save his IR as much as he could. I did the same thing, but man, it sucks doing that. It makes for a tough day. Chris, your best finish of the week, right? P6. And you said ran top 3 most of the race.
Yeah, and was going for the win at the end. And we had a few laps to go, and I was really pinching down the guy that was in second. I was trying to get a little air off the leader, and I was running door to door with the guy in second, and he came up the track just a little bit, and our tires touched, and it shot me up towards the wall, and it shot him down onto the apron, and Yeah, I fell back to 6th.
Yeah, but don't sell yourself short on that one, Chris, because I mean, yeah, you got knocked around, put up in the wall, but you made one hell of a save, and with what I from what I was looking at, a P6 was definitely a good finish with what happened. But there again, I mean, we were racing for the win, and just couldn't get there.
Yeah, like I said, that's all you can do. I mean, you can't be disappointed with it. And like I said, I was just racing hard. The guy under me was racing hard. We just barely touched and messed us both up. But
Knocking on the door, and then you ran the afternoon race, led 30 laps. Then everybody got wrecked by lap cars, huh?
yeah, there was I was actually had just gotten passed by the line on the outside, and we had a couple of lap cars that were down low in line with each other, and we were trying to get them up high. And then finally, one of the cars decides to go up high, but the other guy stays down low, so they just block the track right in front of the whole pack.
Dang. All right, and then Sunday Open, I get up early for the first time ever this year and ran because I didn't get to run Wednesday because I had to go to the birthday party. And so I ran Sunday Open, and sure enough, I had the same server issues again. It was horrible, horrible, horrible. I don't know where I finished. It was in like 28th or something.
Yeah, that one sucked because like you said you got up for it, and then there was problems with the sim. That was like right there on the level of I think you were on the night that teammate Phil Lennon had got on to run that GRC race that he was looking forward to, and that was the one that had the bug where they didn't make you take the Joker lap, and we got
Right.
bit by. Yeah, oh, so disappointing.
Yeah, it was very disappointing. You got a P12 though out of your race.
Yeah, yeah, that wasn't a bad one at all.
And then the final event, I changed the Max Car Transit finally on a hunch, basically, from 63 down to 20, and it made a difference. It was perfectly fine, and I ran good. I ran as high as second. I was P6 with 30 to go, and got disconnected from a different issue, and that is my Ethernet card. I actually have two of them in my computer, and occasionally this one, about once a week, it will just say Ethernet cord disconnected down in by the clock in Windows. And the fix is if I reboot it, it works just fine. So I don't know what's wrong with it, but that's what happened, and I got disconnected by that Sunday night at the end of the race. So that was a bummer. It kind of just put a cap on the end of the week when I was expecting to win this week or at least run well, and I really never got a chance to. But
Yeah, so
bummer.
this week I tried like hell to make one of these NIS races. Now I'm focusing on the fixed this year for one more year, and man, I just for the life of me I couldn't make a start. Thursday night I had some family stuff going on that I totally forgot about. So I jumped in about a half an hour late, so I could help Chris and hopefully get something there. And then same with the Saturday morning, I was like, okay, let's do this. I set my alarm to get up, and I wake up and it's like 2 minutes after 6. I'm like, oh, you kidding me? Um, but I did. I forgot that I actually was able to do the Sunday Open. And Chris, you and I were in that race. I just like totally forgot about it. But you and I were racing um, kind of together, helping each other out pretty much that whole race. Um,
Yeah.
and and it yeah, because we kept getting blocked by that second pack. They just would not let us through. We were so much faster, and um, I think the only way we were going to get through there is if we started punting people out of our way, and I guess that's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, that some of those open races were kind of frustrating because the fix setup was way, way off this week, and a lot of people, especially in our splits, there's usually a few people that'll run the fix setup. There's a lot of people that base their setup off of the fix setup, and it was between a second and second and a half slower than a lot of the other setups, and so you had packs of cars where you couldn't figure out where the slow guy was because the cars were fast enough that they could stay in the pack, but the pack was, you know, just super slow. It was nuts.
Right. All right. Well, let's talk Road to Pro. Next race is tonight, right after the recording. Dover, afternoon, 134 laps. I have not run any laps. I'm going to jump in that race. It's going to be crazy. What do you guys think? Have you tried the truck?
Yeah, I ran a C Open last night, and the truck's pretty awesome. That's pretty good. It's fun to drive at least. And the only problem I had early in my race, I had a really good race except for like 3 laps in, I got off of 4, and that truck, I didn't know it. We know it now, but it gets really light in the front end when you're on the throttle heavy and you really can't steer the thing. And I scraped the wall a little bit, and the guy behind me ran me over. But the truck was still fast for the rest of the race. Man, that place is fun to run, particularly in the trucks.
Yeah, and especially with that many trucks on the track all at once. It's going to be a fun event. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, well, you don't have that extra horsepower that's trying to spin you out. I mean, you just drive that thing into the bottom and it just sticks. It's a lot of fun.
Yep. All right. Cool. Let's talk official racing, where we track any official racing outside of NIS. Chris, you had a P2 in A Open. Boy, you almost won it that time.
Yeah, I hardly even remember that one. I remember the fix that I ran last of the week. I had gotten the pole and was running first and got spun out by a second, 15 laps into the race. But I said 22 races. I have no idea.
Yeah, and then I think that was Wednesday, and then P15. I got a P15. I had gotten up to 4th before the leaders wrecked us all. They wrecked the whole field. And then the next day, you somehow talked in teammate Phil Linden into running, and he's not normally an A car oval guy, but he had a good run going. In fact, he put up a video he made of him missing a big wreck and having some great luck too.
No, he's never. I think he did race Daytona, but I don't know that he's really had much experience on restrictor plates. I don't even know if he ran the whole Daytona race. But so he came in asking how to run a plate track, and I just gave him a few tips and was just immediately awesome at it. But there's something did happen that race that was kind of eventful, and so Phil had gotten a black flag, and I'm not 100% sure how he got it, but I thought that he had got it avoiding a wreck. He'd went flying down pit road to avoid a wreck. Anyway, we've all gotten that penalty, and I advised him to roll down pit road, make sure he's absolutely in the back of the field when the restart happens, and that once the green came out, he could serve that penalty and not have to lose so much time. And he tried that, but unfortunately there was a guy behind him, and he thought that the guy had the same stop and go penalty. He didn't. Phil caused that guy to get black flagged. That guy protested Phil, and now Phil has a week suspension over that. So what do you guys think? Now, if for anybody out there that hasn't raced Phil Linden, he is probably the nicest guy you can meet on the sim. Clean racer. I mean, so what do you guys think? I have personally been protested once. It was for intentional wrecking, and I got a warning. Don't you think Phil maybe should have got a warning as well in this kind of strict?
Well, yeah, I think it should have been a warning. I think a week suspension seems a little stiff. I think at the end of the day, iRacing should call the penalty on him if he did get protested. See, that trick only works if you're the last car. You cannot do it if you're not the last car, and this proves it. You can get, protested successfully.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you're not the last car and you pull that trick,
Yep,
you have to be the last car. And so the trick is, and I think I told you this once earlier this week, but the trick is you got to roll through pit road like you normally do and do your stop. And then on the one to go, roll through pit road and even stop and make sure every single car is in front of you before you come off pit road. And that way you're the last car and you can duck onto pit road, and that's completely legal. And nobody can protest that because you're not causing anybody a black flag.
But yeah, and Phil, I mean, he completely recognized that he deserved, to be protested. He messed up that guy's race, but yeah, I definitely think the penalty was a little
A
harsh.
little harsh, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if a NIM was maybe wronged by somebody, doing that at some point in a big race or something, and just has, a particular.
Well, especially if it's first offense too.
Yeah, like I said, he didn't mention that he'd ever been protested before, and I can't imagine he ever was. Like I say, he's just the nicest guy you could probably ever
Yeah,
meet on
clean
there.
driver for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Racecraft.
you would think they would look at his starts. Like, okay, this guy never runs NIS. He was at the back, messed one guy's race up. Let's warn him. I just feel like he's like, okay, cool. Give this guy a week off. I don't know. I feel like it is a very severe punishment for the crime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also in official, Tony, you had a P9. You ran one event. I don't know what day it was.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Oh, I think the P9 was Monday. Yeah, it was a Monday open race that I'd run, and that was like Chris was saying at the beginning of the week. It was a pretty clean race, and it came down to fuel strategy at the end, and um, there was a late race caution, like right near the end, that was going to basically finish off the race for us. But the problem is like I just did not have enough fuel to make it even on caution. I was going to run out about um I was about 3/4 of a lap short, and so yeah, I came down, grabbed I thought I had my stuff set to just grab a splash of fuel and go again, but no, it ended up being um, a full pit. So I was actually uh, running in P5. But after that pit stop I had, it finished me off at P9. But hey, I just you can't complain about a top 10.
Yeah, that Monday race, that's the one that I begged you to run and then I forgot to register.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was just absolutely awesome.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of sucked too, because yeah, we would have been in the same split for sure. That was disappointing.
All right, let's talk Peak. Peak ran at Richmond this last week. Ray Alfala gets it done, gets his first race win of the year. I watched this at the end off and on, and then I did watch the end of it live. He doored Matt Busa, and basically it was an accident. It was a racing situation. It wasn't like he purposely doored him, but they got together, and that's how he took the lead. Matt was in the lead, and he took it from Busa by basically running him out of the groove, and went on to win it. And it was a pretty cool win. He did some donuts at the end. What'd you guys think?
I thought it was phenomenal racing. There was a little contact there, but I mean it's Richmond, it's short track racing. You got a win on the line with I think it was like 6 or 7 laps to go, and they were racing hard. And I don't think it was anything intentional. I think it was just really good hard racing, and yeah, it was a really fun race to watch at the end there.
Yeah, I caught a good bit of it, and that was really, really impressive. All year really has been an impressing racing, better than what you're seeing in real life, actually.
Yeah, and there was a video put out of Brandon Pipgrass, his onboard camera showing him make a big save as he almost got wrecked. And what was interesting when I watched that video is how fast his hands are moving on that wheel, and he is sawing that thing to save it. I mean, it was quick. I couldn't believe how fast it looked. But
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
That's crazy when you are right. When you watch his hands, they are flailing back and forth. It's that's
I don't think I
impressive.
can turn my wheel that fast, physically. But anyway, Ray Alfala pads his points lead. He's up by 6 points over Ryan Michaeluza. Keegan Leahy in third, Bobby Zielinski fourth, and Michael Conti in fifth. Moving on to World Championship F1, Gregor Hutu tops the field in points with 3 consecutive second-place finishes. And boy, Hutu, I mean, I can remember when he was the only guy winning, and then it was Martin Kroenke, and now it's like opened up a little bit. But Mitchell de Jong is sitting right there. He's looking good in points as well. He's in second, only 6 points back from Hutu.
You have any theory on why that is? You know, why we see? I mean, we used to kind of see people dominate, and now we still see a few, a handful of guys dominate, but it is mixed up a little bit now.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't watch the races. I sometimes can see the highlights and whatnot, but
I know it makes for some awesome racing.
I think,
let's jump. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's probably that car's probably a few years older, so I think more people probably got their heads wrapped around it and know what it's doing a little bit better. I like driving the F1 car in practice. I've never done it in a race. Probably won't. But that is a very complex car. Just being able to understand it alone is a huge advantage, let alone being able to drive it. So,
Oh yeah, I think it's way out of my league. I mean, yeah, I've driven it around in the test server a time or two, but holy cow, maybe one of these days. I doubt it.
All right, let's jump into the topics. I'll take the first one here. Team member Chris Perez wanted to let us know that this weekend was the first of the iRacers Lounge sponsored races at the Precision Racing League. And it happened on Sunday night. Didn't hear who won the race, but it's pretty cool that we're getting our logo out there on the league races and stuff that are being broadcast. I don't know, did you guys catch it?
No, unfortunately not, because it started like half an hour before the NIS race. So I was practicing for that, get ready to run it.
No, I completely missed it. I'm going to have to go back and check that out.
Absolutely. Thanks to Chris for that. All right, Will, what's next?
Yeah, so we got 2018 Season 2 patch number 5 today. Really small patch. They fixed a race control issue that had to do with rolling starts and road racing after an issue this week in Monza. I did have a thing written up about that issue, but kind of pulled it from the podcast script because they fixed it within 1 week of it being a bug being announced. That's really cool. They also increased the toughness of the floor on the Audi R8, the BMW Z4, and the Mercedes AMG GT3 car. So no balance of performance, nothing major, just little details getting polished up.
Yeah, they are responsive with those bug fixes sometimes, especially when it's something like that.
Yeah, there was it was early in the week. I think it was one of our first topics we saved. I wrote a thing up about it, and then not even a week later they have a patch to fix it. So really cool they're on top of that kind of stuff, especially when they're able to get it diagnosed so quick.
Yeah, it was some kind of issue where if the pace car crosses the pit lane line or the checkered line at the same moment that another car does, that car gets a lap down or something like that.
Yeah, it was really weird on the timing of that, and it only affected rolling starts. But the way they spotted it is a few guys had like a lap time average that was faster than their fastest lap time in the race because like they did a lap in like 0.7 seconds because of that timing loop.
Oh, it's as if they did a lap in 0.7 seconds.
Yeah, so like if you're I think like the top 8 in that race cross the start finish line starting lap 1, and then the pace car crosses, and then cars 8 through 20 or whatever it may be, they get counted for that first lap even though it's not really a lap. So but they got it all sorted out.
Cool. All right, Chris.
Yeah, next we have a tweet from iRacing. It looks like they're having a A deal where you can save 30% when you reactivate your expired account. Which, from reading this, it looks like you have to have an expired account currently to take advantage of this deal, and it looks like it expires on May 9th. So I guess if you have an account expiring between now and then, you could save a few bucks and get this 3-month renewal for $23. Kind of sucks because I'm actually on a monthly deal right now because I joined in November, so I wasn't really that sure that I wanted to put the money into it when the deal came around then, and so I'm kind of waiting for July before I, get my year. And
Yeah, there'll be a
my
sale in July.
yeah, my month is actually going to expire just a little while. My 3-month is going to expire just a little while after this deal ends, so I'll have to keep an eye out for another one. Maybe I'll get lucky, but
They
I'm
might
just gonna
extend it.
miss
You
it.
never know.
Yeah, if they do, then I'll definitely take advantage of this. But you might want to check out their Twitter if you need to take advantage of this. The promo code is PRLAPSED discount 418. If you can't understand that from my terrible grammar and stuff, you can just check out their Twitter page and find it there.
All right, Tony.
Yeah, so professional driver Paul Tracy was getting
You
in
called
some.
him what? No, I'm kidding.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I had no idea who he was until I had to look
You
him
don't
up.
know
So
Paul Tracy?
no,
And you're Canadian.
I know I'm retarded, right? Yeah, I'll
Too
own
young,
it.
probably. How old are you, Tony?
37.
No, you should know Paul Tracy. I'm 38. How did you miss it?
Yeah, he was a
Does he?
cart
Does he?
driver forever.
That would be why, right there. All I really know anything about, and very little at that, is circle driving. So if there's too many right turns, I got no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I think he won the Indy 500 one year, but they stole it from him and gave it to Helio.
Yeah, that's where I know him from.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like he was in front when the checkered flag came out at the Indy 500, but they gave it to the guy who was in second because whatever.
Well, okay.
Anyway,
So I guess I got to apologize to all my fellow Canadians for not knowing who this guy is. I am actually putting on my dunce cap right now, but anyways, he was getting in some track time on iRacing, and he was posting pics and videos of himself on Instagram running in Apex Motor Club's SimCraft Motion Simulator. Um, got a couple, different ones of him running. He was running the Trans Am and the Porsche, and I'm going all backwards here, and I lost what the other one was. But
what a rig he's running though. That thing is nice.
Yeah, like it's it is a pretty sweet looking rig, and like the videos are good and stuff, but I couldn't through the videos I couldn't see the motion of this rig, and I was kind of hoping to be able to see how it all moved and stuff because yeah, it's slick, like it's real slick.
Yeah, I love the color too. Bright yellow. All the bars are painted like a bright yellow. There's speakers on the top. There looks like 4 speakers, and it is a motion rig. We've covered this before. It's called the SimCraft Motion Simulator. But anyway, Paul Tracy, yeah, he lives here in Scottsdale, not too far from where I live, and he's from Canada. He's a Canadian. But he's the announcer on the IndyCar broadcast. So if you watch NBC IndyCar, he's one of the 3 announcers. He also runs Trans Am in IMSA, and he's currently been doing that, I believe. And so anyway, he's been doing the simulator that he has access to basically get ready for the season.
Yeah, so I was also looking like he was born in Scarborough, which is like 2.5 hours away from me. Um, so yeah, I'm feeling like a pretty big ass right about now, but looks like I got to start watching some of this stuff.
You don't remember Team Cool Green with him and Dario and yeah, I mean he used to be the Players Forsyth car. back with back in the day, man. And he, he used to fight with Sebastian Bourdais all the time, and yeah, that was cool. All right, next story. We want to shout out to Tanner Watkins. He did post up in the forum a month of May schedule about the Dallara IR18 car and what to expect for the Indy 500. And so we're in May now, guys. April is over. And so he details out when the first race is. And let me find it here. All right, looks like the first race day is Friday, May 18th. Okay, and that will be the first running of the 2018 iRacing Indy 500. It'll roll off at 10 p.m. Eastern. And the next race will be Sunday, May 20th. Oh, excuse me, Saturday, May 19th, and then Sunday, May 20th. So there's going to be 3 events that you can start. So what do you guys think? I'll probably end up running the Sunday one.
I'm going to run at least one. Yeah, I'm an Indiana boy. I actually skipped school a few times and we went to the museum at the Speedway just to kill time. But yeah, I love that place. And just I don't even own the new Indy car yet. I don't own Indianapolis, I don't think. So I'll definitely have to get some practice and just try not to ruin those guys' race.
Oh, Sunday's 10 a.m. Eastern. And then Saturday, there's actually 2 events, 9 a.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, I didn't even have to look at the times. I know that I'll make it happen if I don't have to do something for work or family obligations.
Yeah, so he also details out, practice days and all this other stuff, but that's when the events are going to be run.
Let's just hope that they don't have any problems, because I'm going to be pretty hyped for this one, and I'm going to be one of those guys that's going to get real butthurt if I can't run my race for some reason.
All right, Will, what do you got about IndyCar?
Yeah, so more IndyCar news here. iRacer Graham Bunyan, I hope I pronounced his name right, posted up some photos that he was having discrepancies with the number of wing elements on his cars versus his rivals. So in the mirror of his car and in replays, he would have 2 wing elements where they would have 3. Eric Hudick stated in, "This is a graphical bug on remote cars. I am going to fix it for next season and perhaps add something new that no other car has had to this point displayed on opponents' cars." So kind of curious what that second half of that means, but yeah, it looks like it's a little bug, but they're already on top of it.
Yeah, what is he talking about? It's never been displayed before? I don't know. But the first thought that comes to my mind is he's talking about like the camera. There's a little hump for the camera for the onboard. But who knows?
Well, the IndyCar, the IR18 has that gosh, what color
it's built in on all of them, right?
Well, it has that number plate. And I've seen photos of them playing with those LED lights where you could have like a flag for your country. It shows you like your pit timer. So I'm thinking that might have to do with those LED lights, but not quite sure just yet.
All right, Chris, what's next?
Next looks like John Hammer's back in the forums posting some cool stats from the NIS season so far. The biggest highlight pointed out is a 2017. The average incidents per person per start is 5.63, while in 2018 the average incident per person per start is 7.21. Each split is averaging 60 more incident points per race.
Wow, that seems like a lot.
Yeah, and I'm glad this one's in here. So I have opinions on this, and I don't know. I haven't been around long enough to know what things were like last year. But my opinion is this year that the threshold for getting these incident points in our oval races is way too high, and it just causes, anytime you see those X's pop up, it just makes you angry. It makes your blood boil. And it causes people to be angry and take it out on each other that maybe they wouldn't normally. For example, I was racing with a guy at Richmond, and I was on the bottom, he was on the top. He came down into me and doored me. I mean, just barely touched me, and ended up being a 4X. Maybe part netcode. And then a couple laps later, he did it again, and I was furious. I was yelling at him, and after a couple laps, I cool off and I start thinking, this would have just been fun racing if I didn't have those stupid X's popping up. And when I went back to watch the replay, sure enough, I mean, we just barely touched doors. I mean, it would have been fun, rubbing his racing at Richmond stuff, and we would have had a blast. But instead, we're cussing each other out over these stupid incident points.
What's cool is John posts up Excel data to back up his claim, and I downloaded those and searched my name, which if you're an NIS, you should look at this. It's kind of interesting. It's got your 2017 stats. He's got another one for the 2018 up through April, and he's got average incident. My 2017 average incident was 7.4. In this year, 11.1, and so that is a big difference. I've actually had more incidents myself.
So you've raced both years. So what do you think? What do you think the difference is? What's causing it? Any
Well,
ideas?
I'm not racing any differently. I can tell you that. I don't know that I've noticed that it's increased.
Yeah, and like I said, I wasn't there last year, so I can't say. But in my opinion, that would help if they would lower that. Maybe not to the point of like dirt or GRC. Maybe that would be too low. But something closer to that than what we have now. I mean, you want the system there because I think it does deter, people from just getting in over their heads and doing stupid things. But if a couple guys are rubbing doors, you shouldn't be getting. Oh, another thing, it was 8x and less than 20 seconds worth of damage. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I believe I was helping you in a race at Atlanta early in the season, and you got a couple 4Xs from people spinning behind you or right above you and coming down and just barely grazing your bumper, and you had 0 damage, and it still gave you a 4X. It's like, how do you get a 4X when you're not even getting damage?
Yeah, and I have a pretty solid network, so if I'm having that stuff, other people are having it too. And like I said, I'm usually pretty even tempered. I know everybody kind of the worst comes out when we're racing. Everybody gets mad, but those stupid X's come out, and I know I'm like a lot of people. I just get freaking mad. And if those things weren't, if zeros were popping up instead of all these fours, then maybe I would enjoy the race more and not be so fired up over the stupid number that really doesn't mean anything. I'm not going to lose a license over it. It just makes me angry during the race, honestly.
That's the thing. I mean, what are you losing by getting it? If you're not losing the license, then what's the point,
Yeah, which I could. I mean, I've taken some pretty good dips because I do run a lot of short races. For example, I ran a few truck races at Talladega, and there's a few of them where I was involved in the lap 1 wreck and finished nearly dead last. And if you run 2 laps and you have an 8x, I mean it'll hurt you.
I feel like the punishment of having a wrecked truck when you truly wreck is enough of a punish, let alone a 4X.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You should never get a 4X for just light rubbing as racing.
Right. I mean, if I'm racing a guy, I truly like I don't the numbers make me angry, but really what I don't want is damage on my truck. And that's what's really making people mad. It's not the stupid numbers. It should be, it's the damage on
you
your car.
can't win if you're damaged.
Yeah, and nobody wants that. I mean, so everybody's trying to take care of their stuff. People make mistakes, but just having those stupid X's to make people even more angry when they're already on edge is just causes problems, in my opinion.
All right, Tony, what's next?
Well, kind of in the same subject matter of incident points, and um, last week we were talking about that empty box inspired forum post. Well, it certainly is not showing much signs of slowing down, because that post is up to about 50 pages long. So if you missed it last week, YouTuber Empty Box posted a video discussing his opinions and views on the SR and the incident point / limit system, which has obviously sparked some pretty big discussion on the forums. Um, if you're interested in entering the discussion, check it out on the forums. I am certainly not interested at this point. Um, I think it's I kind of read a little bit on it. It's just kind of going in circles and stuff. But I'm still
Oh,
in this.
big circles. And
Yeah,
half the people that are posting now are just posting to make the thread longer.
right, right. I mean, I'm still in the same mind. Like, I'm pretty much all good with it. But hey, for those short tracks, I think they need to tone down um the limits. Maybe a little closer, maybe not quite to the same standard as dirt ovals, but something so you can, gives you some room to move around, do a little bit of short track beating and banging and but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, I agree completely. Yeah, and when you're at a place like Richmond, Bristol, I mean, you should be able to, touch doors a little bit, touch bumpers, again, it should be, and it shouldn't be, it should just be fun racing. It shouldn't be something that makes you angry. But I tried to go through some of those forum posts, and I can't get through it because, and a lot of it deals with the oval side too, because I guess they have something similar with off tracks. But I don't really race oval, or race road, so I'm more interested in the oval. But I think there definitely needs, I think something needs to be changed or tweaked. I think it's good that there's discussion about it, but I don't know where to find that discussion because the forum was just too hard to go through.
Oh, yeah. All right, Will, what's next?
So we got some discussion this week about the World of Outlaw Championship Series, some info and their pricing structure, and all that's actually going to begin May 7th. So there was some information that came out this week as far as promotional stuff. Some of the qualifiers, as far as entrants, would include Mike McKinley, a Dirt UMP modified driver.
Mike McKinney.
McKinney, yes, I always say that wrong. We also got Chase Briscoe and Alex Bergeron. So yeah, a lot of really cool information coming out about that. It starts May 7th. And staff member Doug Hunt released some information as far as the pricing. There's going to be more than $30,000 in cash and prizes per series, I believe. There's going to be a weekly cash purse paid to the top 5 finishers with cash prizes to the top 3 overall championship finishers. If you get into the championship, you get VIP treatment for 2 at the 2018 World of Outlaw World Finals at the dirt track at Charlotte. You'll be an honorary starter. You'll get to go into the suite and get some pit passes. It sounds like invitation and recognition at the annual World of Outlaws award banquet in Charlotte, and you get an official World of Outlaw trophy.
Wow.
Yeah, actually a really cool thing too. Late models only, but if you win the championship, you're gonna get one-on-one instruction with Clint Boyer in a 2-seater late model. So a lot of really, really cool stuff.
Whoa, that's a pretty nice package, man. The money, the recognition at the banquet, get to go to the race, get to run a car with Clint Boyer. I mean, that's great.
That sounds freaking awesome.
Yeah, it seems like they're really putting a lot of really good effort into this. A lot of really cool prizes. I know there was a lot of flack they got about how the qualifiers were ran. And I'm hoping to see that be improved next year. And I want to give a shot to get that pro license next year. But yeah, no, this is really, really cool stuff. Really good for esports. Really good for iRacing. And especially World of Outlaws. I mean, it's awesome all the way around.
Yeah, they got their stuff together. So that brings us to the next topic. Who doesn't have their stuff together is GRC. At least it appears so because of the lack of commentary from iRacing about this. Obviously, GRC is no longer the same, where all the teams and drivers have abandoned the series. So Jason Waite in the forums, he said, well, it's time to point out the elephant in the room. What is going to happen with iRacing with GRC? And we did hear from Randall Chenoweth, and he indicated that Red Bull, GRC is still working with and sponsoring this World Championship. And I actually called him on it and said, are you sure? And he said, yes, he is a commentator for the series, and that is what we have been told by staff. And so there is some kind of confirmation, I guess, that I guess there's going to be a GRC championship, as much as we're going to get, I guess.
The timing's is not really good on this. I mean, I think it was originally World of Outlaws on Monday, and I think GRC was on Thursday, but we're already getting information for the World of Outlaw race here. I'll pull my calendar up here.
Yeah, it starts May 7th, coming up like this week.
Yeah, so it's less than a week away, and in theory, you would assume they would be in the same timeline, but we have no news, nothing official, no word on prizes. So I feel like iRacing themselves have to say something official. Good, bad, and different.
Post something about it, right?
Yeah, it's really, really odd.
All right, Tony, what's next?
Oh, looks like iRacing is making some changes before the Nürburgring 24-hour special event coming up. Hopefully they're hopefully they'll get a lot less problems than with the last one. But Doug Hunt Jr., staff member, has as we continue to try and improve special events, both from a technical point of view and for users, we're making the following change to the Nürburgring 24-hour. Only Amsterdam servers will be used for both of the time slots. In the past, majority of the participants have been from Europe, so this should improve their experience.
Cool.
Kind of, yeah. Let's hope this works, and maybe that'll show them the answers they're looking for.
It sounds like it'll make it much better for them, but it sounds like for us over here in North America, we're going to be the ones with the crappy connection.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's bad for the U.S. guys, but I don't know. Maybe not. We'll have to see how that goes. This is the first time I've heard of them doing something like this.
Yeah, well, you would think it would be bad for us, but if that's the case, I'm still okay with it because most of those things pop off over here, and if there's more Europeans racing, that's where the server should be.
I ran a Mazda race sometime this week at Phoenix, and I think there was only 2 guys stateside. Everyone else was from Europe or not from America, and I had 0 connection issues. It was actually a really good, really fun race. Road racing in Europe is just so much more popular. The caliber of driver you race against is so much better. I'm thinking overall it's going to be a net positive for sure.
So yeah. Sorry, I was just gonna say, like, so if they're gonna use the servers over there, does that mean that they've, figured out the problem, that it's, some problem with the servers over on this side, or?
I don't know. Maybe just most of the drivers are from there, so it makes sense, geographically to do it there. I think it's cool to give them some love,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I might complain about like the netcode 4Xs or whatever, but actually, in all reality, what iRacing does to make it so we can all race on the same track from all over the world is pretty freaking amazing. There's a guy I race with. I'd say his name, but I'd probably get it wrong, so I don't want to. But he's from Australia and races in my splits a lot and never has any kind of connection problem. And I mean, we're literally on the opposite sides of the world, racing on the track without connection problems. I mean, you can't do that in any other game or sim that I've seen played. You can't even play like a Call of Duty or something with somebody in Australia without them all being lagging out and jumping. I don't know how they do it in racing. I mean, it's bravo. It's insane.
All right, we're going to skip the media coverage section in the interest of time and jump right into hardware. Will, what do you got first in hardware?
Yeah, so there's some ARX off-track lights that you can get. David Tucker shared a demo of it on the forums. Basically, the ARX pairs to your phone via some Logitech software, but it actually will flash lights depending on where you are on track. So if you're running a practice session and you're just trying to find those track limits, it will go, I believe, let me pull it up here, green if you're on track. If you are off track, it'll go red. blue for approaching pit road, yellow when you're between the cones going to pit road, so basically when speed limit is enforced, and light blue when you're in your pit stalls. So
you have to get the app called ARX on your phone, and you can turn it into a traffic light, right?
yeah, essentially, yeah. So basically, if you're learning a new track, or I know we hear a lot from the road guys about incident limits, getting those 1x. This will give you a defined, this is on track, this is off track. So
Kind of a neat idea, you know. It gives you a visual clue, you know, without seeing the 1x. I mean, I guess how do you know otherwise? You see the 1x, right?
yeah, so you gotta push those limits to know. Now you get a visual cue of what's going on, so you don't have to, like for me in VR, if I get an EX or anything, I have to basically like look up in the sky to see it. Obviously in VR you can't see the lights, but it is one less thing that you have to read and focus on.
Yeah, search the forums for ARX development, page 9. Okay, Chris, what's next?
Next, we have an article from PC Games In. I'm unfamiliar with. Looks like maybe this is an NVIDIA site. I'm unfamiliar with the site, but I love this article. It's entitled "Graphic Card Makers Will Be Forced to Slash Prices After GPU Shipments Fall by 40%." And if you want to read the article, yeah, just check out the site. But basically, graphic cards are going to be coming down, which is awesome
Thank
news
God.
because yeah, I'm in the market for one. Step one, graphics card. Step two, hopefully my the bus speeds on my ancient motherboard will keep up. And step three, Oculus.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad to see that the prices are starting to come down. I think Bitcoin and all that mining craze that drew the price up is maybe on the waning side from what I've heard in the news and stuff. So, yeah, I kind of expected this, and I'm glad it's happening. Good deal.
Yeah, hallelujah. I was actually really close to pulling the trigger right after Christmas, and just when I was ready to buy something,
I still
that's when it
think it's
happened.
best to wait a little longer.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd definitely wait a little bit because probably what's going to happen is I'm sure they ramp up production when a run happens like that, and then when the stuff goes away, they end up with a surplus. So hopefully, with any luck, we'll find some really good deals in the coming months. Fingers
Yeah,
crossed.
yeah, I'm thinking summer, slash some more. All right, what's next up, Tony?
Well, speaking of graphics cards, apparently it's NVIDIA GTX 1180 specs um, have been leaked via rockpapershotgun.com. Um, says, according to information obtained by completely unknown means by WCCF Tech, and that would be a website, so .com, the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1180 may well bear a closer resemblance to today's GTX 1080 Ti than the GTX 1080, powered by a GPU currently known as the GT104. Will allegedly have a whopping 3,584 CUDA cores, a 256-bit GDDR6 memory interface, and between 8 to 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory, clocked at 16 gigabytes per second. Um, and probably coming in at you know, um, well, in Canadian dollars, it'd probably be about 7,500.
$700 it says here.
Oh, I wasn't too far off.
Yeah, $700. It releases mid-June, and yeah, this is probably the card I would buy.
That's yeah, actually exactly what I'm probably looking for. We'll have to wait and see.
$700 for a video card, but I mean that's the thing. If you're going to spend on it, you might as well get the best you can get at that time because you want it to last for several years.
Yeah, and that's a little pricey, but for what you're getting, that's not too bad at all, considering you probably a year ago probably cost you more than $1,000 for kind of the same thing. And yeah, like you said, I'm getting it in one now, hopefully to last me for years. So.
All right, very cool. I'll take the last topic here. It's Ultimate Sim Hardware on Facebook. Look them up. And they have some pretty cool stuff. I was looking at their website, and they got some gauges that are like plug and play USB gauges, including a NASCAR style big analog RPM one with a proper, shift light. Um, what do you guys think when you look at these products? Pretty cool.
Yeah, they look really solid. I'll be in the market one of these days. Not at the moment. Yeah, that's like step 10.
The problem with that is once you have VR on, you can't see the thing. But they do look
That's true.
amazing.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I won't really need much of anything else. I mean, I guess you could have like a braille button box, so you could try to go that route. I guess. What do you do, Will? Do you use voice commands?
Yeah, I have certain voice commands, and then I just use the in-car gauges because there's no field of view issues with the Oculus.
He also has a really, really nice handbrake. Looks like a hydraulic handbrake. And he does have a website. It's ultimatesimhardware.simpl.com. And he's got displays and button boxes and various things. I do think he's UK based. Everything he has mentioned in pounds as far as pricing.
You know, I don't really have much of a use for a handbrake, but if I had like an actual rig, I think I'd have to get one anyway because there's so many really cool handbrakes out there, and that's one of the better ones.
All right,
Yeah,
let's jump into final thoughts. Chris Scales, you're up first.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I wanted to give a shout out to a fan of the show, Spencer Tart. I raced with him in a K&N race at Charlotte a couple weeks ago. Man, those races are so freaking fun. The car is just the setup's terrible. The fixed setup is just loose as hell, and I think the race is maybe 30 laps, and it just gets looser. And the last 5 laps, it's almost undrivable. But I don't remember. It's been too long now. I can't remember much of that race, but just wanted to give a shout out to him. And also teammate Greg Hectus. He's been putting together, he's going to start putting together weekly track videos. He does most of our A-car testing and sets. And while he's doing that, he's just making some short videos to help people, people like me that maybe are going to some of these tracks for the first time, help you get around them. He's just starting out. He has them on his Facebook page along with our Tifosi Racing Facebook page. Give him any feedback. He's just starting out. He's adjusting, some video and audio options, but he's putting together some really cool stuff with a pedal cam and a face cam, and it looks really good.
You can actually see him, and I love the pedal cam where you can see his feet.
Yeah, he's just starting out, so I'm sure he'd appreciate the feedback. But yeah, check that out if you want to just get some basic information on how to get around a track. He's not a peak driver or anything, but he can get around these tracks. So for somebody like me, it's a good place to learn a line.
All right, and appreciated your enthusiasm for Talladega, Chris. You ran as many races as you possibly could.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna run a lot at Dover unless the races just go terribly. Because like I had a ton of fun in that truck race last night. I love that track.
All right, cool. Tony Groves, your final thoughts.
Yeah, so speaking of Talladega, I had actually a fair amount of starts, more starts in a week than I usually do. I love Talladega, and I gotta say that part of that was from Chris's enthusiasm. He said he had about 22 starts this week. I think I counted at least 22 shake and bake memes on our team chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just awesome. I had a lot of fun racing with Chris. Now, Talladega was actually really, really good to me this week. I didn't finish any worse than 11th, but no better than 6th. So I stuck in that same spot, and man, oh man, it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of craziness happen, but a lot of really good tight racing. Some nice 3 wide action, and for the most part, guys were really minding their p's and q's, and a lot of fun this week. Looking into next week, Dover, I have not had a lot of luck at this place. you know, I gained almost 100 IR last week, and I'm probably going to lose most of that this week. But you know, it don't matter. I have fun. No matter how bad I do or how good I do, it's always seems to be a good time. So um, I guess cross my fingers for Dover.
All right. And William Gibson, final thoughts.
Yeah, I just want to shout out at Ricky T on Twitter. He sent us the picture we're using for our YouTube thumbnail. Fun thing we're doing every week from now on out is submit us your screenshots, whether it be on Twitter, Facebook. You can even email it to us, and we'll pick a winner every week to use for our YouTube thumbnails. Yeah, I just want to shout him out for sending us that, and I just want to say thank you guys. I feel like everything's been going really, really good with the podcast. Excitement's been up. All the memes are hilarious, Chris. Everything's, I feel like, going really good, really smooth. I'm still getting settled at my new job, so I'm not getting as many starts as I would like because I got quite a long drive, but I'm having a ton of fun. I feel like things are going really good and really excited.
All right. And yeah, we appreciate everybody's help on the podcast here. We're making a few changes. We're going to start recording on Wednesday next week instead of Tuesday. And so that'll be a change. The other thing we're doing is we're going to put up a link to show notes where you can actually see and access our actual show notes. Well, not the actual ones, but a copy of it, so to speak. And it'll be a read-only Google document. And so while you're listening to the podcast, you can click on that link and actually click on the links that we're talking about and follow along. And so thank you to Will for putting that together. We'll have an individual link for each episode. And so I'll be putting it in the description of the podcast. Will post it on the YouTube page and on social media as well. And wherever we post our podcast information, we'll post that link as well to the show notes. So check it out and tell us what you think. That was a request from a viewer, and we decided to take him up on it and give it a shot and see how it goes. Final thought for me, Talladega. Boy, I'm bummed out I could not get a win this week because my wins usually come on restrictor plate weekends, and I just couldn't get very many starts, and when I did, I had those dang server problems. So kind of bummed out. It kind of makes me think I need to start working on building a new computer. My computer is, 5 years old. It was new 5 years ago, and now it's not. And maybe I need to start thinking about doing it. I don't know. But I'm certainly frustrated with the issues I've had, and hopefully Dover it goes away. I've turned the max car transmit back up to 63 in anticipation that I'm not going to have an issue because it is Dover instead of Talladega. But we'll see. And with that, we'll see you later.
User in your channel stopped recording.
All right. Title idea.